It's another Sunday afternoon for us at the Stew Review, doing this recording, and we are on part two of the biopics with Toby Hopkins, as usual.
Good evening, good afternoon, and if you're up, good morning.
So, yep, as mentioned, the main bulk of today's recording is going to be the second half of our biopics selection. I won't go into details as much this time because it's all listed on the first one, so go back and listen to that if you haven't. Before we get into that, there's a couple of ends to tie up from last week's recording. First one was when I turned up, you were 15 minutes into the Cobbler.
Indeed, yeah.
How did that go?
Was it Cobblers you were wondering?
Was it Cobblers indeed?
I was thinking of that phrase, and I thought, is there a trade equivalent to that previous phrase that is a positive as opposed to a negative? Because actually, that's the phrase I would use for this film. It's actually really good, especially for an Adam Sandler.
It's good Cobblers.
Recent film. Yeah, it's not Cobblers.
Did it follow roughly the story arc that we predicted?
Yeah, we did quite well on that. I don't remember who suggested it, but he did indeed try and get off with a beautiful woman wearing somebody else's shoes, which it went belly up, that plan, when she invited him into the shower, and so
he had to take his shoes off.
So he suddenly got morally sensitive and legged it out of the bathroom, and then became a bit more used as the magic, or a bit more usefully trying to track down a gangster.
Right, and did he find true love in the end?
He was in the process of finding it, yes.
without using the shoes.
Without using the shoes, but they missed the. I thought our idea of him walking on the beach barefoot. They missed a.
No,
they
went for the shower angle, whereas we were going
for
the beach angle.
No, that was early on. But indeed, without using the shoe. Oh, and there's a really good twist at the end, which perhaps if I'd looked for it, I might have seen coming, but I was it was quite a relaxed kind of watch.
Okay,
so I didn't see it, but it was nice.
You have to fill me in at the end of the recording. Obviously, you don't want to ruin it, because is this a film that's pretty much out now?
Yeah, it's absolutely. So
recent. That's our first current film review as well, just now then.
What do you mean? What for today? You mean?
Well, as in, I don't think we've reviewed any films that have been out roughly the week we've done the recording.
Haven't we?
Not really, I don't think.
We did Kingsman.
Oh yeah, we did a bit of Kingsman,
didn't
we?
Couple,
okay, yeah. So anyway, if you are looking to go to the cinema and the Cobbler is out, Toby's giving it a general worth a watch.
He's good in that sort of role of being a slightly forlorn everyman, and he's now a bit older, and he just has that a good face for it, and a good sort of mannerism. He's not goofing around like a lot of his sort of even quite recent previous films. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I have one note to mention actually in the introduction, which is did have a question of sorts left in the comments section on our last video.
Oh really?
From someone we do know.
Oh, right.
so not someone we don't know.
So he wasn't sort of swearing at us, or
no, we haven't. We've yet to acquire our first troll. That'll be a momentous occasion when we do, I'm sure. Right. And this is from Ed Bourne.
Oh right, okay.
And he appears to have listened to pretty much all the recordings, which is obviously very good of him.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just wanted to know, would it be fair to say that Ralph Fiennes is your favourite actor?
Oh God.
And
if I had to pick one, possibly, but I think I don't really have favourite actors. I just there's probably a group of about something like 6 or 8 that I like for different reasons.
Because I was sort of thinking over the course of our previous broadcast, I mean, Rafe and Bradley Cooper have both kind of received good levels of love from you.
Well, given In Bruges and Grand Budapest Hotel from in terms of Ralph Fiennes, I mean, I really like those two. He's really good in them.
Yeah.
And given that a couple of films I've seen of Bradley Cooper, yeah, I really rate him. Although I still need to see that Silver Linings
Playbook, MTV movie nominated.
Yeah, I've yet to see that. So I've only really seen 2. I mean, the Blot for me is kind of hangover film. So he's not going to be.
He's not up there with Rafe.
No, he's not going to.
So what we just surmised that Rafe is within your top 5-ish of favourite actors.
If I had to, funny enough, I was listening to in the what do you call it, catalogue, the archive of Desert Island Discs, and
Right.
I listened to his this morning.
Right.
And a couple of others as well.
Good choice of music.
Dustin Hoffman. Actually, to be honest, I switched off before it got to the end, and I went to.
So you don't know what his what his kind of one luxury item would be, along with the works of Shakespeare and the Bible, basically kindling for the fire, as I would describe it.
Yeah, he wasn't grabbing my attention, but a couple of them I got through. Dustin Hoffman's was quite interesting, and Michael Caine, as you can imagine.
Okay, and so that is if you're a UK listener. I think Desert Island Discs is one of those things on iPlayer which are kind of available for like 100 years or something ridiculous like that, aren't they? So they're worth it. Especially there are some really interesting ones.
And especially the Kirsty Young's particularly good presenter. She sort of gets really good questions in.
Okay. Well, that's good. So before we alienate anyone not listening in England, any films this week we want to just bring up before we get on to biopics?
A couple of note. On a whim. Well, they did have a reason, but I'll explain that in a moment. On a whim, I went back to watch Deliverance from film from 1972.
Dueling banjos. Fame.
Dueling banjos. 4 friends go down a remote river in the state of Georgia, it's in the mountains, and run into some trouble with a couple of mountain men, and it's a really good tour. I'd forgotten how good Burt Reynolds is, and my God, he's got some big sideburns. They're about 2 inches wide, and I'd also forgotten that about 2/3 of the way through, he's basically taken out of action. He's just lying there, very unwell, and then the John Voight character sort of takes over.
There's a bit like a waterfall or something, isn't there, where he's kind of led around. So a bit something gets like, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it. There's like a waterfall. They're in a river or something.
Yeah, they go down to rapids and they all fall out and off, and Burt Reynolds has a real cropper, and it's good, really good film. And then the second film of that pair is a film called Excalibur,
right,
from 1981, which is completely different. It was a sort of kind of fantasy adventure, obviously Arthurian story.
Yeah.
Part neo pantomime, part visually lush romp, which was good fun. And it also had a fairly young Liam Neeson in it, and Patrick Stewart and Helen Mirren, and Gabriel Byrne. It was one of his.
So what led you to dig this one out? I mean, we did have a brief conversation the other week about Lancelot du Lac, the Robert Bresson thing. Was that in the back of your mind when you were after some Arthurian legend related films?
No, there is a reason for this. Okay, here's a trivia question, and I'll be really impressed if you know this.
Okay.
What? It's worth a guess anyway.
Okay.
What modern TV travel program presenter stroke filmmaker had a small part in both those films?
In what? Deliverance and Excalibur.
That's why I went to watch
a modern day travel presenter. Is this like on like BBC on like Wish You Were Here? Or
I'm not going to give you any more clues.
Not like Gloria Honeyford or something.
That's a terrible guess.
I don't watch. I don't really watch them. I mean,
no, okay.
Matt Baker.
This is quite obscure. Who's Matt Baker?
He used to be on Blue Peter. I don't know if he does travel shows, but I mean, all I can think of is Wish You Were Here, which just had Gloria Honeyford kind of wandering around going, "Oh, it's a nice."
Okay, the tip would be if you knew the director of those 2 films, which is the same director.
Okay. No.
John Borman.
John Borman, right?
Try and make the link.
No, what's that? Borman. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it the surname? Is it his son or daughter or something?
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Okay. Charlie Borman. Oh, Charlie. Okay. Yeah, very good.
So he's extremely young in Deliverance. He's just a toddler. He's sort of about 4 years old and just appears for a few seconds at the end.
Oh, right.
as John Voight's son, and then in Excalibur he plays a much bigger part, actually, a quite interesting part at about age 14.
So people can watch out for this question for quiz.
Yeah, if you're making your own
the
pub
future.
quiz, it's quite.
That is a good one. It's a good one.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we actually get on to biopics?
Indeed.
Now then. Okay. So I'll quickly just run through the list. Last recording we did the first 5. Which we decided upon Lou Reed, which I think you came up with the title Lou, played by Robert Downey Jr. I did go back actually and look at this because I thought I'll have a look through the Velvet Underground's and Nico's album,
Mm.
and I thought there's a track on there called All Tomorrow's Parties, which I thought could be quite a good title as well. I think it was one of Andy Warhol's favourite tracks off there as well. So yeah, just when I was going through, I thought that could be interesting as well. Second one was Yoko Ono, Bjork playing Yoko Ono, simply called Yoko. And when I wrote it, I thought it would look quite good in capital letters, not just lowercase.
Okay.
Might give it a bit more emphasis.
Yeah.
Number 3 was Saranov Fiennes, starring Ray Fiennes as Saranov.
I looked at he has aged. Yeah, I was thinking he might be able to play the first film on our list today, but actually he's just aged a bit too much.
Okay.
But he'd be great for.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens when we get that far down. So yeah, film was I think what we came up with.
Yeah.
4 was Lance Armstrong, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the title role. I think I suggested Rolling Justice last time, but then I also considered The Winning Margin might be quite a good.
Oh, that's quite good.
Good title, or Riding High, although not entirely relating to the euphoric nature of drug taking, but at least the high in terms of finishing in first place quite often.
They're both of those are good.
Good, yeah. I think they were an improvement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then number 5 was Thomas Alexandre Dumas, who we didn't. I don't know if we even discussed an actor or a title. I mean, one of the problems with him is that you can't name it after himself because of the confusion with his son, who's obviously Alexander Dumas, who's a lot more famous for the Three Musketeers and so forth. There was talk of them doing a biopic a while ago, which doesn't seem to have gone through, which was based on an autobiography called The Black Count, and I thought that's quite a good title.
Yeah,
I would be happy to retain that myself.
Okay, I didn't read that.
I had a brief look at actors again, which are quite difficult because I think he'd be quite a tough person if he wanted to go down the general route of someone who could speak French. Was an established black actor as well. It'd be quite difficult. So I had a bit of a look into current Haitian actors, and all I came out with was Jimmy Jean-Louis or Levinsky Jean-Baptiste, who both don't really have the right build. I think he's supposed to be pretty. He's supposed to be pretty big, and both those guys look quite slight.
Right.
So yeah, I wasn't really too sure. I think you'd either have to pick an unknown, or you'd have to kind of shoehorn in a kind of established American actor, which.
What you mean, Jamie Foxx? Or
yeah, I mean you lose a bit in translation when you do that, especially a story like this one. It kind of feels that the heritage should also be maybe included within the tale, or at least the heritage of the role.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a couple of guys from 12 Years a Slave as well who may have been potential.
What, the lead, Olajuwon?
Yeah, him and the other guy who sort of had one of the support roles, who I think may have been sort of mixed Dominican or Haitian descendants as well. Anyway, we'll start properly now with number 6 on the list, which was he's kind of one of the biggest gamblers of all time. Who,
we're going to that
when I saw his tale, I was just amazed at the sheer volume and scale of what he'd won and lost. So this guy was called Archie Karras. I think he's originally Greek.
Greek, yeah. 1951, he was born on the island of Kefalonia.
Indeed. So I think we're going to change our approach slightly from last time to see if we can sort of shape up the delivery a touch. And you're going to sort of just deliver us a pitch, Toby, as in if a biopic for Archie Karras.
Best I can, and you can play the sort of Harvey Weinstein character.
I'll see what I can do.
Go easy on me.
So you've come into
quite a formidable
Hey Toby,
producer.
What you got for me today?
Okay, yeah. Archie Karras, as you say, was born in some poverty on the Greek island. Born in 1951. He had a slightly poor and what's the word for a slightly dysfunctional father who was a kind of who apparently wasn't a very good builder, put it like that. Which I think that anyway, I don't want to be racist about Greek builders. And being poor, he started playing marbles at a young age to improve his lunch money, effectively.
Yeah.
By the way, I did have an angle to this. I understand that they did try and make this as a kind of a documentary, but fictionalized documentary, I think. But they failed to come up with enough money for it.
Oh, right.
So I thought,
how ironic, given, given the nature
absolutely.
of the film.
So I thought, in reflection of that, you could make a point of making this film for as cheap as you can,
yeah.
and make it the aim to make it sort of ridiculously cheap,
Yeah.
and cut corners wherever you can,
Yeah.
which would sort of exaggerate his early poverty, perhaps in a way, and the fact that this chap goes on to lose huge amounts of money.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, how about just as another idea, just off the top of my head, I was thinking to kind of embellish the whole gambling nature. What you do is you start with $1 million. You go to the local casino, and then you basically bet half of that. And then basically that decides on what your film budget's going to be.
Oh, I see what you
that's
mean.
a good sort of marketing tool, as in you sort
But
of.
what
come in
happened
and,
if you would lose it all?
Well, as I said, I think if you bet half of it, then you know your minimum is
Oh, I
a
see.
half a million budget film.
Yeah.
But you know, take a trip, you play on the roulette table for half an hour, and you might come out with a $20 million film. You might come out with
That's
nothing.
a good. I like that idea.
And that could be quite a fun way to do it. Anyway.
And that wouldn't be a bad amount, $500,000.
Yeah. Okay.
You should just about. Oh, it'd be real shoestring, but anyway.
There's not much CGI in this film.
So
probably.
just in a nutshell, he runs away from home.
So we've got the good early narrative tale of poor kid, poor background in another country. He goes across. He thinks he gets a job as a waiter on a boat or something, doesn't he?
Boat.
Goes across. He basically skips off the boat and then
with $50,
and then heads down, gets a bit of a terrible job, and goes to the casino.
Well, it's not just casino. He did a lot of gambling with pool, which I thought was quite good. So he basically became a pool hustler.
Okay.
Which is quite good in the sense that it gives him more control.
Yeah.
But he must just obviously be a very good gambler and know the odds enough to
know when it falls in his favour, I guess. I mean, as is the case with gambling, you'll win and lose, but providing the odds are always preferable to the reality, then in theory you should be making money.
Now I think you'd have him or the character narrating off and on through the film,
okay.
And it would start with a quote of his, which goes, "You've got to understand something. Money means nothing to me. I don't value it. I've had all the material things I could ever want. Everything. The things I want, money can't buy. Health, freedom, love, happiness. I don't care about money, so I have no fear. I don't care if I lose it." And that's obviously said after he has lost
an
so
awful lot of money. In fact, do you want to touch on the run? Because I mean, that's essentially the central thing.
Well,
in
but
his tale, or are you not so worried about that?
I'm not so worried. I mean, he makes up at his height. He builds it up, and at his height, he was worth 40 million.
Yeah.
And then madly, he goes and starts playing marbles again, and within a few weeks. Well, it's the history I've read says marbles.
Oh, right, okay.
Within a ridiculously short time of just a few weeks, he's lost half of it, and he goes on to lose most of the rest of the half, I think.
Yeah, within a very, very short space of time. So,
and then builds it up, and
so the question is this? I mean, we were thinking about this a while ago, weren't we? And also, you've kind of got the Hollywood angle, which might not say that the story itself, that middle section of just the gambling, the winning, and the losing is not enough, and you stick in a relationship story, or you stick in a kind of tokenistic, wise, cracking black guy who he has a sort of slightly on and off relationship with, who always is stood behind him cracking jokes when he gets stuff right and wrong, probably played by Chris Rock. Do you do that,
or
you reckon? He is the guy who always shoes in, Rush Hour stuff like, Jackie Chan's there, being Jackie Chan, and Chris Rock's just sort of stood in the background cracking a few jokes. Or is it the case again? Actually, it's interesting with the pool line you mentioned. You've got obviously the Hustler from back in whenever that was made, the 60s, 70s.
Yeah,
Paul Newman. Yeah, Paul Newman, and obviously playing pool against Minnesota Fats. Can't remember who played him off the top of my head, but again, I mean that's quite an interesting film because it's essentially just about a guy playing pool.
Yeah,
But it's a very interesting sort of psychological dive into the notion of a man who's obsessed with gambling and winning and being the best.
and I suppose the line the quote, perhaps you want to save that because that sort of that either tells you excuse me, either tells you what he's about to begin with, or sets it up, or actually makes the rest of the film a bit boring. Perhaps you need that more towards the end.
Could do.
I've got one line at the end. He gets accused of cheating, card marking.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted him to say something like, "Why would I cheat? Perhaps it's another challenge, and without challenge." Oh yeah, it cuts. But there's when he's on the ship, he's as a waiter and stroke washer upper.
Yeah.
I want to have a reasonable scene of him washing up and looking sort of quite forlorn, but then you get his face realising the excitement that's to come, and a grin starting to spread across his face.
Cool.
And then at the end, just to cut back to when he says "and without challenge," and it cuts back to that scene of him washing dishes. Life would be as dull as dishwater.
Ah, very good, very good. Okay, shall we move on as we're running through the time now? Number 7 on my list was again very famous character, Osama bin Laden. Obviously, we had Zero Dark 30 in I think 2012, which was kind of like the US take on the sort of breaking into the compound and assassination and so forth. The question is, what would you do with a film such as this one?
Okay, 1957 to 2011. My pitch scenario here is it would be Bin Laden's last day alive.
Okay.
And
would he know it's his last day alive?
No.
Okay.
But the angle is that he is not only seen, he is seen as in some ways as a normal person.
Okay.
Fairly early on, he gets a visit from a satellite dish installed.
Right.
So he's sort of flouting the communications protocol in terms of trying to keep hidden and all that.
Yeah, is this to watch sort of like the local sports channel?
This is to watch the upcoming FA Cup. Right, because he supports Arsenal and he's just got in mind, and he's cross because Arsenal got knocked out in the semi-final that year.
Oh right, okay.
By a Manchester team and by Man City, I think. And
okay, yeah.
Man United.
So it's not a football podcast. Anyway, Arsenal are out the competition by this point, are they? But he still wants to watch the final.
Yeah, I'm giving the premise to why he's so keen to watch the FA Cup, and so the satellite dish installer gives him another male to talk to. So he's got a way of talking about not only his politics and his beliefs, but he could grumble about the weather or whatever.
So it's almost a very humanising.
Yeah, partly. I mean,
I'm
not trying to.
Is it going down the comedy route or
only slightly? Only slightly. It'd be subtle. It's not. I wanted it to be quite real.
Okay, so does he meet his comeuppance at the end?
Yeah. So his last thing is. See, that's why I was explaining about football. I'll tell it right. So the last thing is he hears the soldiers coming.
Yeah.
Or hears of them coming.
Yeah.
And his last line, because he's just been talking about the football to the satellite man, because Stoke's playing in the final.
Yeah.
And he gets a bit frantic about the underdog Stoke winning.
Okay.
Can they win? and I want him to say something like, "Come on, Stoke," or something.
Right.
As he's running to his hiding hole or something like that.
All
so
right.
there is a bit of a comedy in that.
Okay. So who would you have playing Osama?
Well,
it's
the only idea is Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
With the reference, I think that might be. You'd have to really tone down his acting. It references him playing in the Dictator film. You wouldn't want him to do it like that.
That's it. It could be a bit close on the reference. I had a bit of a look and I was thinking. I mean, you haven't seen Iron Man, have you? You're not wanting for your.
No, I don't know.
Okay, there's an actor in there who plays Raza called Farhan Tahir, who is about the kind of closest. I think if I put a beard on him, he would look pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
Right sort of part of the world, I think. But so yeah, in general, you think it'd be a good biopic? It's quite an intriguing angle.
Once I got that sort of angle, I call it Bin Laden's Day, which again is a slight sort of.
Yeah.
it would probably wind up American audiences a bit because they'd think that sounds like a holiday.
Yeah, it's like Macy's Day.
But it's just literally a day.
Yeah, okay. Well, should we move on to the next one, as again we're pushing through. Next one is a bit of a sort of English, potentially eccentric, definitely a polymath, C.B. Fry. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy, sort of, he's around sort of late 1800s, early 1900s, and basically just incredibly good at an awful lot of sports.
Yeah, 1872 to 1956. Yeah, incredible all-round sport. I mean, ridiculously good all-round sportsman. I think you start the scenario with him as an old man. He does one angle to this is he did suffer slightly with mental problems. He didn't go mad, but he just suffered a bit in that department. So you start off with him kind of eccentric, slightly bumbling, but still striding around. He was a very forceful character, quite sort of autocratic and willful, self-willed and stuff. And he's talking about he's talking about his party trick of where he can
jump on a mantelpiece, isn't it?
Yeah, he would face the mantelpiece, jump, turn in the air, and plant his feet on top of the mantelpiece, taking a bow as he did
standing up with his back to the wall and stood on the mantelpiece.
So the idea is, you think that this chap is making it up, and he says that he was that he played for England and he got the world record at long jump.
Yeah,
and things
so we're
like
doing
that.
sort of like big fish type setup where it's
Yes,
sort of a guy
exactly.
and people are sort of like, is this guy telling tall tales or not? But
And
obviously the reality is he did do all these
flashes back to when he's 21. He's at Oxford. He's already a well-known character. I'd have a scene early on where there's a caricature of him in Vanity Fair, and there's a quote in there which I'd have his roommate reading out or something, where they were saying perhaps he likes to be known as CB, but perhaps more appropriately he should be called Charles III. So he was obviously quite a sort of imposing figure. Apparently he was very striking looking.
Okay.
And then you go through he was a fantastic cricketer. He does have his first brush with mental problems is he does have a breakdown in his last term of Oxford, including going because he was terribly extravagant and got heavily in debt, and one of the reasons subsequently he took on various ways of making money, and one of them was in some nude modelling, which I thought that would be quite, because one of the actor we'd get for this would be a very nice sort of young looking man, good looking man, so that the ladies were like that. And then you just go through his sporting achievements. You don't show the long jump bit.
Okay.
He was just excellent at football, rugby, cricket.
Yeah, he played in an FA Cup final. I think he scored a century for England as well, something like that. Did he?
Loads of centuries. He had a ridiculous average at the end of his professional cricket career of over 50.
Yeah.
I don't know a huge amount about cricket, but I do know that's very, very good,
especially on uncovered wickets, as he would have been playing on at that
apparently
point.
It was hard.
And he held the was it the long jump world record as well?
Well, yeah, but what I want to do is keep that under wraps, so that you still sort of don't know how much he was making up.
Okay.
And right, the end of the film is where he's again after his sporting career is finished.
Yeah.
He apparently dressed rather extravagantly and behaved a little oddly. And there's an anecdote of when he's in Brighton, he goes for a walk, and and that's true. And part of this anecdote is he disrobes.
Right.
I don't know who saw that. Well, I guess somebody saw it. And I'd add to that in the nude that he goes up to a wall and performs the mantelpiece
jump
trick.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And you can obviously edit it so you can keep it PLP, you don't have to show all his bits.
Yeah.
And then you get him jumping off the wall onto the beach,
right,
and sort of quite eccentrically running off down the beach, and then doing a long jump.
Okay.
Right, and then him going right, and then it cuts to the credits, music, and it goes to the coda saying he held the world record for 21 days jointly he played in the. You know, you could
Yeah,
whatever's
just
appropriate
list
to
all
just
of
fill up
his big achievements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So, who do you have anyone marked down as,
Oh,
as
yeah,
potential actors or actor?
By the way, I'd call it probably CB or CB the all rounder or the all rounder.
On that, I had a couple of ideas. Well, playing the fields, plural S.
Brilliant, yeah.
Or the height of achievement as well in relation to his jumping.
You're good on titles,
Right.
Stu. You're on
Anyway,
fire
yeah,
today.
actors.
So yeah, I've got a big list.
Just give us a few.
Yeah, Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Dan Stevens. Who was in Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, right? Okay.
I don't know him.
I'll trust you on that one.
Yeah, I don't know him from that. Ryan Gosling possibly.
Okay.
I
had Martin Freeman down. What do you think of that one? Not quite good enough.
No, he's not sport. He's not.
not very sporty,
No. I mean, the good thing about this is that CB Fry is not a well-known face, so you don't have to. You don't have to get a resemblance, but you need a sort of striking figure that looks
someone quite physically
that's
appropriate for someone.
Physically appropriate, and I think out of a list of actors, you'd get the one that not only is sufficiently charismatic, but it is actually pretty damn sporty, because you're going to have to get, you're going to have to show him running
and nude modelling, of course,
and that sort of thing.
Okay,
and
so
I did even think I went to, well, there's an actor called Chris Evans who was in Avengers.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen him in that, but he had the right look.
Okay.
He might be a bit chunky. I also did think, but they're too old really. Mark Strong or Guy Pearce. They've got the charisma, but I think they're a bit long in the tooth.
Not right age. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, seems we've just passed the half-hour mark. I'm thinking what we may do is we could actually leave number 10 for a whole piece next week, because I think we could actually get quite a lot of interesting conversation out of that character. Should we just give a quick mention to number 9 before we finish? Because I mean, on a personal note, the more I looked at this, the less I could see in terms of good filmmaking capacity, and that's Mother Teresa.
Okay.
It seemed like a really good idea to start with, and then the more I looked, there's a lot of kind of just sort of her going around being nice to people.
Yeah, well, the angle I had for this is that when she starts doing the work in Calcutta with this poverty-stricken, the most needy, she actually starts to doubt her, well, not existence of God, but doubt her
faith,
her faith, and her giving her whole heart to Jesus, which is what she.
Okay, so is the story going to deviate much from kind of? She kind of basically builds up her own sort of, well, I don't know if monastery is quite the right word, but that's sort of a charity thing. Yeah. And obviously, media attention comes a bit after that. Is it going to be following a straight line along those?
A little bit, but it would zap. It would zap forward. I'd like the end scenes to involve, or this is my thought, to involve Diana, Princess Diana, and her giving Mother Teresa a rosary, and the link between doubting giving over her heart to Jesus, and the comparison with Diana doubting giving over her heart to Prince Charles.
Okay.
So they have that connection.
Do you think a nice film? Do you reckon it would get past made for TV or straight to DVD? Or
yeah, I mean,
do you think there's enough material
agree.
there to get a feature?
No, I think you're possibly right. It's the only ideas I had were quite schmaltzy and quite difficult, because it's just like you say, it's just religious questioning and slums and
there's not much action.
No.
Unless you completely change the script.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention any titles, actresses that might be good for it at all?
I had Sally Hawkins.
Okay.
I did have a title for it. Weight of Hearts.
Weight of Hearts. That's quite a good title. Yeah, it's quite a good one. I think that might be the high point of the film, to be honest. Just the title.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll leave that one there.
We'll leave that. We'll save number 10 till next week, because it's actually a very specific. It'll be a very specific film-related conversation as well. So it'll tie in. Number 10. I'll show you number 10. I won't read out number 10. That number 10.
Oh yeah.
So I think we could have a good conversation on this particular lady. We'll give away that much.
The special that and
lady
Malcolm.
and Malcolm. Yeah,
so
we can talk about
10 and Malcolm.
We'll have enough time for Malcolm.
Finally, I'll get my Malcolm in.
Yeah, we'll leave. That could be a euphemism for so much. So yeah, I guess with that, we'll see you again with number 10, and Toby's going to get his Malcolm in.
Yeah.
So goodbye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.